Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Yalla Salesforce. We will continue our journey today with Yalla Salesforce Trail Max. Over the last couple of sessions, we started a new chapter for Salesforce Administrator Certificate, and we kicked it off with understanding more about business process automation. So we started this trail for build flows using the Flow Builder. We covered different types of flows, understanding more about data and the actions within the flow, understanding the flow builder logic and how can we have decisioning and assignments and variables. Our session for today will be mainly focused on the record trigger flows. This module starts with a refresher for the different types of flows, starting from screen flow, auto launch flow, and triggered flow. In here, when we jump to the org setup and we write in here flow, you will find all of these different types are available for you here, from trigger, schedule, screen, and auto launched. And this is what we are covering in here. So the screen is the guided path that you are guiding the user through the business process from screen to another until you achieve what you are looking for. Where can we launch those screen flows? We can launch them from here. If we came back in here, it can be from an action button on the top of the screen in here. It can be in the middle of the lightning page. It can be added to the utility bar. All of these are different options for how you can start the journey with the screen flow. Also, they are highlighting in here that the screen flow can be added to an experience cloud. And if you remember that we discussed the experience cloud, it's an extension for Salesforce beyond just serving your employees, and it has an offering for customers and partner, which allow you to create a customer portal and the partner portal. So if you have an e-commerce website, for example, that you need people to start interacting and dealing with Salesforce data, Experience Cloud will be the product to serve those customers. Same thing for partners. If you want to collaborate with your partners and having a common opportunities and start doing the sales cycle together, Experience Cloud will be the place that you will be collaborating with your partners. So can we add a screen flow to the Experience Cloud? The answer is yes. All right. So any questions? So far, so good? Lovely. All right. So the next topic is the auto launch flow. And we agreed before that auto launch flow, it's not available through a screen, so it's not interactive. It's just it can be called from another flow. So we learned last session about the subflow in case we need to make things reusable and modular, and to make a parent flow calling the subflow, that means it's an auto launch flow. Or if you have an Apex or REST API, it's the same thing. So auto launch flow automate business processes that has no UI. They have no trigger they run in the background. So it's not a button to kick off a screen, and it's interactive, and it's not a record that's gonna change, which will enable this auto launch to run. This auto launch will be called from another piece of automation like another flow or Apex or REST API. Finally, the trigger flow. The trigger flow can be a record trigger flow, a record change, and I need to kick off a process. It can be time. It's like every hour or every day at 7 a.m. It can be a platform event. And we discussed before the platform event, it's type of asynchronous integration. When you need to interact with multiple systems, and you need to publish any event once, and then you can react multiple times because it's like a channel. I have something change, you push it to a platform event. One of those listeners to that platform event can be a flow. So we can have a platform event trigger flow. So once we have a platform event, we can react to it and do whatever we need. All right, so that means we will be waiting one of those triggers in order to run this process in the background. Any questions? So this is just a refresher for the different types of flows that we were discussing. Now, tools. So you might heard before that before the flow being the most used and the top-notch declarative automation tool within Salesforce, there was workflow rules, there was process builders, which was doing like similar functionality, but it was way limited comparing to the experience we currently have with the flow. So flow builder now is the optimal tool. Why? It combines capabilities of both workflow rule and the process builder in a single point and click. It's way faster. It's 10 times faster comparing to those other tools like process builder. So far, so good? Perfect. All right. So since we are talking today about trigger flows, so we're going to start with the trigger flows. What are the different what are the different capabilities, or what are the different pieces of that trigger flow? So it starts usually with a trigger. Something happens. So when we go in here and I will say, get me a record trigger flow, it starts with a trigger in here that I have a change. I have a change in object. So in here, I can say when a change happened to the account object. And this change can be a new record, it can be an updated record, or can be both, or can be deleted. So this is how it starts. It's a trigger. And then it's going to be a criteria. So is it with every record will be created or updated, or we have a certain condition we need to apply? And you remember from previous sessions that we have and, or and or together, or the full-blown formula that we are familiar with, which you can apply here complex logic, but the return should be in here either true or false. If it's true, we're going to kick off this automation. If it's false, we will not be executing. And then the action. So once I defined all of this, what do I want to do? I might take that record and create related records, or start an action like sending an email, a chat or post, approval process, all of these great capabilities that we are familiar with from the previous sessions. All right, so trigger, identify what launched the flow. It can be a schedule, it can be a record, it can be platform event, as we discussed. Criteria, we need to specify what is the criteria for a scheduled trigger, or date and time, the criteria for a record change a trigger, or the object specified to a field values. All right, and then the action, what we gonna do. So the criteria, it can be a time, it can be a record change, and even within the record change, we can have extra criteria to say what type of records that we need to trigger this business process automation or the flow. Okay, trigger type. So let me go back in here and let's see it in the UI. So when I go for the new flow and say triggered, we have those types. We have the record trigger flow, and we have as well the scheduled trigger flow, and we have the platform event trigger flow. So all of these options are available. So schedule, a time frequency, platform event, when a platform event and we are subscribing to that event, and then the record when record is created or updated or deleted. So far so good? Fantastic. All right, so record trigger flows. We were in here doing the record trigger flow, and we had this interface, which is specify the object, specify the trigger, and then we will go for the set entry condition. We discussed it before that we have those four execution model for this flow. We can have it as fast field. That means if I need to change the value for the record before it hit the database, so the change already happened. It's a record trigger flow on, let's say, opportunity object. I made a change, and then I need to react. So the change is coming, and before it commit to the database, I have an opportunity to change the values before I set it to the database. All right, so if you remember when I created the contact, and if the phone number is empty, get the related account, the parent account phone, and put it in the contact. So it's the same contact record that I am about to create or update in the database, but I have an opportunity to say, nope, before you do that, just check the phone and grab the phone from the account. This is the fast field update. What else? I can stop the record from being created. So we have a validation rule. A validation rule can stop the record from being created, but the validation rule is limited within the record and its parent. But if I need to take that opportunity and go for all the tasks and do a loop and then determine something and then come back and decide whether you want to do that change or do that creation or not, you have the option as well with the custom error. We will go through it at some point, but those are capabilities of the fast field update. You can change the record before it's saved, or you can stop it from creation. All right, fast field during the record update that triggered the flow and before the update is saved. Updating a record, which we were just saying, update the contact before it hit the database, showing a custom error to user. All right, so this is the fast field before we hit the database. How about we already done that and we hit the database, but I need to create another related record. So I'm waiting for that Salesforce ID for the opportunity to be real, and then I need to take further action by creating a task related to that opportunity. Or I need to send an email. So whenever it's related to a related record, or I need to react by doing an action, now it cannot be before the record is saved. It has to be after the record is saved. So those are the difference between the fast field and the action and related records. What else? All right, if I am in here, I don't have the option to have an asynchronous path. But if I am in here, I have the option to toggle this on. This is the second part. So let's put it in here, and I will put in here opportunity, for example, and I will keep it in there. If I am in here, this is disabled. But if I am in there, I have the option to toggle this on. What asynchronous means? This is run immediately. So whatever I am doing in here, this is gonna happen right now, part of the same, which we name it transaction. I did a change, and before that change happened or after this change happened, I need to create the task right now before I exit this flow. This is the run immediately. But run asynchronous, first, we cannot, as we just mentioned, that if I am in the fast field, I cannot have this run asynchronous. But if I have it in after record save, the asynchronous is available. What asynchronous? That means I'm not in that rush. I am okay to separate it in a separate transaction. Let's commit this transaction into the database and then tell Salesforce to do something else whenever Salesforce had the right resources to execute this other transaction. So it happens in like seconds, but it's different than the run immediately. Why I might go there if I am calling another system, I'm doing a call out. So once we have it in here, we need to send this data to another system. If I have a very complicated transactions and I am like hesitant whether I will be close to the governor limits and I want to take it easy on the platform to not hit any limits, run asynchronous. This will be the solution for you. So all the limits will be pumped. So will be pumped when you move from synchronous to asynchronous. So just to choose wisely and evaluate the situation and whether the transaction is light or it's a huge transaction and there's a series of automation gonna run, and you want to avoid like SOCL 101 and all of these scary governor limits. Just to remind you what were the governor limits. Governor limits, we are in a multi-tenant platform. The server is not yours. The server is, you just have an apartment within this big server. So in order to make it fair for everybody and to protect the other customers that are sharing with you the same server, Salesforce put this governor limit to protect you and protect other clients. So to make sure that you are not impacting other clients, they put those governor limits. And since you are not rushing Salesforce to execute this transaction right now, accordingly, it might be wise to say, all right, I can do such and such and such, not immediately, I can wait. And since you are nice and you can wait for certain transactions and giving Salesforce the choice to do it whenever all the resources are available, they make like the governor limits more relaxed with the asynchronous. All right. Any questions? So far, so good? Perfect. So this is the run immediately, and this is run asynchronous. So we talked about before, after, and asynchronous. What else? I have in here paths. So run immediately, run asynchronous. I can have a scheduled path. That means after 1 hour, do such and such, or before the contract ends, do such and such. So this is the last piece of the puzzle in here. So new schedule path after 1 hour. And in here, I can say, all right, this is based on the after the close date for the opportunity. I'll put 1, and this is our after. And I can add as many like schedule path I want in here. Right. Accordingly, those are the 4 types. Run immediately with the 2 options we have for run immediately, before and after. Run asynchronous whenever you have the time and resources available. And finally, after 1 hour of doing something. Any questions? So far, so good? Lovely. All right. So fast field, we talked about it, related records and actions. If I need to do something after I commit to the database by creating or updating another records, calling the subflow, calling actions, all of these are after committing to the database. Run asynchronously immediately after the record update, the trigger, the flow is complete. After the record update that triggered, the flow is complete. So once we finish the immediate part, we're gonna start the asynchronous path. But once we have the resources available for us, executing more advanced scenarios like sending requests to external system, performing longer running transactions. Why? Because we have more bandwidth with the governance limits on the asynchronous path. Avoid slowing down or blocking the record update that trigger the flow. All right, schedule path in future after the trigger has fired based on dates and times. Sounds perfect. Any questions? Lovely. If you want to automate process to run every time a contract is added to an account, which type of flow is best suited? So every time, and it's a record, and so on. So it's going to be a trigger flow. Which record trigger flow option would you use to send a subscription renewal offer 1 month before? So whenever we are saying that time, 1 month before, 1 month after, and so on, that means it has to be a scheduled path. Woohoo! We did this unit. Right. Next one is, how can we take the business requirements and start breaking it down, draft the process, understand what we are trying to achieve before we even jump to the how we can achieve it. So it's a trigger, a criteria, and then the action. So when an opportunity is created or updated, so this is the trigger. I have an opportunity created or updated. And then I have the criteria. Opportunity, is it every opportunity? No, it's just a high value opportunity and it's a closed one. This is the criteria. And then what will be the action? Create a draft contract. All right, so let's jump to it and build this great flow. So what we're gonna do in here, we're gonna go for new record trigger flow. So I'll go back. Thank you very much for everything we did in here. New flow, and it's triggering flow, and it's record trigger flow. It's on opportunity. And this is when a record is created or updated. We have 2 conditions, if you remember. The first condition is the stage equals closed one. And the second one is the amount is greater than the 2,500 or 1,000. All right, so amount, and I copied the amount, and it's greater than this 25,000. All right, so if you remember from last time, we have the option to say every time that the edit is happening and we are still satisfying those conditions, run it every time, or it's one when we meet this criteria. So in here, we are looking for only when we are meeting this criteria. So this is gonna run only once when this opportunity, it wasn't a closed one and moved to closed one, and satisfying the other condition as well, which is that 25,000. Now we need to create a contract. This is what was the requirement: create a draft contract. So we're gonna create a related record, and since it's a related record, it cannot be fast field. It has to be actions and related records. All right, the resulting starting element is going to be exactly like what they are showing us. Sound perfect. And here they are emphasizing if you are changing the same record that triggered that flow, you need to make it in the fast field, not in the after hitting the database. Then we need to create a record, and it's a contract record. So I will go in here saying create record, and it is going to be the label, and the description is create a draft contract for this opportunity, which one. And then we have the option in here, either from a record variable, which we will need to create a variable, and then of this type of record, and then we will need to have an assignment and put all the values, and then we'll be pushing a variable. But we didn't do that based on the module. So I'll go manually, and the object we are dealing with is the contract. So in here will be contract. And since I didn't do the mapping, I need to start doing the mapping in here. So I need to fill the account ID. So this is what I'm doing, the account ID, and it is going to be coming from the triggering opportunity account ID. And I will need to put the status. And it's a draft. So I did the mapping. So far, so good. Now it's the time for saving and debugging. All right, so close one opportunities, save, flow label, flow API name, and we will save it. Let's debug it. This is the next step. When we are doing the debug, you have the option to say if this is going to happen with, you do want to debug it in the created or update. And then do you need to skip the condition in the chart, or do you want to keep? So we will be skipping the conditions. In here, we will be in the path. In here, you have as well which path, but we have one path in here, which is the run immediately. So we are good. We just need to play with the Grand Hotel emergency. So in here, which record you are talking about? So this is Grand Hotel emergency generators. And when I hit run, this is what's going to happen. So this flow is triggered. The start condition, the condition requirement were skipped because we said we checked that box. One or more contracts ready are ready, and then this is the contract, and it's assigned to the same account related to that opportunity, and the status is draft, and then we roll back this change. If we activated, let's play. Let's go for the same opportunity in here. Do a global search. Do we have it? All right. So yes, here we go. So I have it in here, but it's already closed one. So I'm gonna do this, make the change, and I will go for closed. Select the stage, make it a closed one, and the amount is already above the 2,500, so we should be achieving. If we went to check if we created a contract in here using just a very quick query data export, and I will say select for me all the contracts that created today where created date equals today. You will notice that we will have one record, and when we open this record, you will find it related to the same account, and it's already in draft. So far, so good. Lovely. All right. So we done that, and perfect. This is wrapping up this unit. So let's go and create this challenge. What we are trying to achieve, we are creating a record trigger flow that creates a task for a high value opportunity owner when negotiation begins. That means what we are trying to do. So this is an opportunity trigger. And what are the criteria? It's a high value opportunity owner, and the negotiation begins. What will be the action? We will need to create a task. All right, so let's do it. Create, let's go back in here. Flows, let me close all of these great stuff. New flow, record trigger flow, and it's opportunity. a record is created or updated. The conditions are negotiation. So the stage equals negotiation, and the amount is greater than this number. Amount greater than this great number. Fantastic. All right. So when to run the flow? Only when record is updated to meet the condition. Same thing. And then whether it's a before or after, it's after for sure, because we want to create a follow-up task. All right. Then add a create record. Create email task. Okay, so I'll come back in here and say create task, create record, and this create task. And what will be the description? This is the great description. Create a task for the opportunity owner to send a follow-up email. What will be the object? It's task. So let's do it manual and say it's task object. Let's do the mapping. The subject is this guy. And then it will be assigned at the due date only, what they are looking for. Enter today's date. So that means we can get it from one of the global variable, which is the running flow interview current date. And then I will have assigned to and related to. So assigned to ID, and assigned to ID will be the opportunity. Triggering this maybe the owner ID. Let's validate that this is what they are looking for. Perfect. And the related to ID, it will be related to that opportunity. Related to ID, and this will be the opportunity, triggering opportunity, and this is the ID. Fantastic. So flow label, let's save it. Here we go. And this will be the description. Here we go. All right. We made it. So now when I have an opportunity and it's in negotiation with that amount, we're going to create a task. Let's check and see. Any questions? So far, so good? Lovely. All right. The next unit will be, we will start exploring the schedule path. So create task action. We can't find the what ID field set to account that's related to the opportunity. All right, so let's see that. All right, so it has to be related to the account. My apologies, I thought we're gonna relate it to the opportunity. So this is gonna be the triggering opportunity, and it is gonna be the account ID. Save it, and let's revalidate it once it's saved. So the next one, we will be exploring the schedule path together, and we will see how can we debug not the immediate path this time. It will be the schedule path action. All right, we made this unit. All right, so by default, a record trigger flow runs when a record is changed, but you can delay that automation by schedule path. Actions on a schedule path are triggered when the specific record change occurs, but run after period or before, and so on. So 6 hours after a case is created, 2 days after the renewal, 1 month before the expiration, and all of these great stuff. But before we go there, we need to make sure that who will be executing this future thing. So we need to go for the process automation settings and making sure that we have a default workflow user. All right, so we'll go back in here, and I will go for the setup process automation settings. And on the very top, you will find what is the default workflow user. Perfect. So we've done that. Let's jump and create a flow. So under flow definition, selected the trigger flow, closed one opportunity, the flow open. All right. So let's go in here go for the flow. Here we go. Closed one opportunities, the one we built earlier. And now the time for add schedule path. Because we choose an action and related records, we have the option to create a scheduled path. We can add our scheduled path now. So by going in there, add scheduled path, and let's put the name for this scheduled path. It's 5 days after the closure. So let's put it in here. And then after the closure, so I'll go for the opportunity close day, and this is gonna be 5, and this is gonna be 5 days after. What we wanna do, we wanna create a task. So the problem statement in here was, let's expand our opportunity. So remind the opportunity owner to follow up with that account owner 5 days after the opportunity close. So it's a follow-up task. So let's go in here, and it's exactly like the same experience you have in the running media. So create records. What type of record? We need to create a task. So let's take it. Personalized welcome task. So let's put it in here. What will be the description? Create a task for that opportunity owner to follow up. And then we'll go for the manual. Same thing. And what will be the object this time? It's task. Let's map the fields. The subject, description. This is the subject, and the description is this one. And then we need to add the related to ID. And this is going to be, again, the related to ID field refer to the ID of related non-human object to represent something other than a person, such as an account, opportunity, blah, blah, blah. To refer to a person object, such as contact or lead or a username. All right. So the value will be the opportunity ID. So in here, we will be going for the record, and it's opportunity ID. And then assigned to will be the owner ID for this opportunity. So assigned to ID, this is going to be the opportunity ID, owner ID. So far, so good. Any questions? Lovely. And finally, the due date going to be the current date. So due date, this is going to be the same thing, which is running flow interview, current date. We made it. So save it as a new version, as I can't debug without saving it as a new version. And let's debug it. Run immediate? No, we are today in this unit exploring the schedule path. So 5 days after. And then it can be created, and we can skip as well, doing the same things. And let's have the same. And let's have the same opportunity, which was Grand, if I remember right, Grand Hotel Emergency. And let's run it. Same thing. So we went to that path this time, and see the start condition skipped, and then one or more tasks got created and then rolled back. So far, so good. Awesome. You can expand this flow to include more criteria and the action. If opportunity doesn't meet the condition greater than the 25, do something different, and so on. Lovely. All right, so let's jump to the quiz. In here, we will go for, so this is the setup flow, and within here, we had the review opportunity with account owner. This is the flow we just built in the previous unit. What we want to do, we need to create a schedule path that waits until 3 days after opportunity is changed, and then create a task for the opportunity owner. All right, so add a schedule path 3 days after last modified date. Add schedule path. This is the guy. Last modified date, 3 days after. Sounds perfect. And then add a create record. What we want to do, we want to create a phone call task. So create record. We're going to name it this like that. And this is the description. Here we go. And then how to set record field, choose the option that will allow you to set the field. So it's manually for which object it's gonna be the task. Here we go. The subject, outreach phone call. The description is call to check. Then due date, enter today's date. And this is from running flow interview, current date, add, and then related to ID, to the opportunity ID, related to ID, and this is for the triggering opportunity and ID. So this is the opportunity ID, and finally assigned to ID, and it is gonna be the triggering opportunity, and it is gonna be the owner ID. Any questions? So far so good. Let's save it, and then once it's saved, let's validate it. All right, so now we understood the record trigger flow, the different paths. We were in the immediate, and then we moved on to the scheduled path. Now, the next module will be focusing on how can I see those scheduled records? And if I am interested in one of the objects, how can I see holistically what are the different types of record triggers around this specific object? We made this unit 2, right? So let's tackle the next one. So it's all about now Trigger Explorer. What is the Trigger Explorer? If I went back in here, I'm saying I am in here within different type flows. It will be very hard for me in here to know which one are related to the opportunity and which one is running in which context, before, after, scheduled, or asynchronous. So Flow Trigger Explorer will be the magical tool that will be able to help you in here. So in here, when so you are putting the trigger, I'm looking for the opportunity, created, updated, deleted. So you have all the options, and you will find that you have the 4 contexts in here: fast field, action and related, asynchronous, and the scheduled path. So if you are interested to know what are those different triggers and where they run, this is the way to go. Also, since we might have like 4 of them in here are running, which one is running before the other one? So you can in here as well adjust to the order. Run this one first, and when you update it, go for the next, and so on. The last piece in here that you have this magic, that you have the flow details. So if you have multiple versions and you need to deactivate and activate and so on, you have this in here with the loss modified and what is the process type and what are the different versions and whether you need to activate it or not. How can we reach to this screen as well from different place? You can get it from the object manager. So if I'm looking in here and I am in the account object and I went to the flow triggers, I am in here in the flow triggers. You can still jump to. So those are the ones, and it's telling you this is after save and so on. But if you want to see it visual, you can jump in here and it's gonna default to the account that you triggered the Flow Explorer. All right, manage your record trigger flow with the Trigger Explorer. The tool is more visual and interactive than the standard flow list view. As we were saying, we went in there, it's this different sections with all the options for seeing versions and so on, which is way better than the list view. Open the Flow Trigger Explorer. If it's not already open, just jump to the opportunity, exactly like what we did. You have the option in here for flow details and versions and what is the triggering point and what are the different contexts and so on. Now, to see flow for a different object, click the down arrow, as exactly we were doing. Different context, synchronous versus asynchronous, status, and all the details for the loss modified and so on. You can reorder, dragging and dropping, as we just saw, edit order, and just keep dragging and dropping. And you have some keyboard shortcuts as well available, which can allow you to select a flow, move a flow, drop flow, and so on. Any question for the Trigger Explorer? So far, so good? Lovely. Last piece. We were saying about this schedule path. How can I monitor it? So time-based workflow. Now you know how to see all the flows that run when a specific trigger happen, a specific type, but how do you see individual scheduled instances of that path for different triggers? And it's all about time-based workflow. So from setup, time-based workflow, you can see it in here. You have all of these options to filter. So whether you are looking for a flow, that means you will be writing in here flow, and then you will have the object, the record, and all of these great stuff. So you can do the search, and once you put all the parameters you are looking for, it will be visible like that. You will see that for this specific record, this is the scheduled date for it, and this is part of this flow. Can I say, no, thank you very much, I don't need it anymore? So you can as well canceling that action by deleting it. All right, we covered now everything related to record triggered. Any questions? So far, so good? Lovely. So let's jump to the quiz and wrap it for today. What tool do you use to see a scheduled path that run in the future, such as path that run 5 days after? It's time-based workflow page. You can activate or deactivate flow from the details panel. Absolutely yes. Woohoo! We made the record trigger flow together. Thank you very much and wish you a wonderful day. Have a great day. Bye.